if I can make it across this thing without getting too wet. Oh, but guess not. Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It finally stopped raining around here, and I'm telling you, it's been raining quite a bit. So I thought I'd take a few moments and go out into the woods. It's a pretty slippery, messy mess. But a lot of things are popping up and will over the next few days. I suspect next week it's going to be an abundance of growth out of all the rain that we've had. And then they're calling for 80s and even maybe some low 90s next week. It's going to be just this burst of growth around here. And hopefully it'll dry out so that we can do some more gardening. And whew, that's really soft right there. So muddy. Anyways, I thought I would take you along with me. I have no real plans for this video. Maybe if we find anything interesting, I'll point that out. I have a few thoughts in my mind. This is just one of those walk and talks. Some of you really like them. Some of you don't, because it's not enough specific information on stuff. Oh, there's some little fungus, not edible stuff, but anyways, just kind of looking around at what's going on, which is something that you should be doing on your property. These are witches' urns here. Let me pull one just to give you these little mushrooms. Let me turn the camera around. You can probably see them there. They're not really edible. I mean, they're not poisonous, but they don't really have any flavor or anything to them worth eating. Trout lilies are up. The gooseberries are growing. I've seen the May apples are in bloom, which for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, let me go over here and find one. So, I know this is super professional. These are May apples. They grow in like bunches. See, there's some over there. Now, the plant itself is completely poisonous. You certainly don't want to eat it. But it produces sometimes one little fruit underneath that leaf canopy. It'll produce a little white flower, which will in turn become a little small fruit about yay big, which is edible, and it's very good. It's hard to get because the squirrels absolutely love them, and they're usually the first ones that get them. It's not really a food that you can depend on living off of, because you know, you don't collect a whole lot because the animals get to them first. But they're kind of a fun fruit if you can get to them. Wood sorrel. Probably like how I'm bending over. A very lemony taste. You don't want to eat too much of it, but a little bit on a salad is great because it's got a little citrusy burst. Oh goodness. The things that were on my mind have nothing to do with what I'm doing out here necessarily. You know, I'm just kind of playing around out here right now. I've been busy, and it's been a crazy stressful week, and then we've had all this rain, and I had a few moments today to just come up here and do this, and I thought I'd bring you along. But I was also thinking about, with all this stuff that's happening, and we're preparing. I know that most of my listeners, and I'm going to guess probably well over 95% of you, at least based on your feedback, are really trying to get yourselves ready for everything that's happening. You're out there prepping. You're out there stocking up. You're, getting books. You're sharpening your skills. You're planting your gardens. That kind of stuff. You're doing the things. Who is it that says that? One of the other YouTubers, Bear Independent, I think that's his little phrase. doing the things. But the world is really crazy right now, and there's a lot of craziness going on. And I mean really crazy. And I think the official non-extreme viewpoint is that this is just a little hiccup, and we will go back to normal maybe in a couple of years. Things will kind of find a new normal, but at least it'll be somewhat normal within the next couple of years. Even the Great Resetter, World Economic Forum people, I'm pretty sure that's what they're banking. They're banking that the new normal will be their way. Everyone else is hoping that the new normal, won't be too bad. But what if everyone's wrong? What if this just gets really bad? What if those of us that read the good book, the Bible, and believe it tells a different story? What if we're right? And I'm not here, at least in this video, to try to convince you to change your spiritual beliefs. I'd do that someplace else. But from just strictly a preparedness in what's going on in the world, what if things get really bad? I mean, they have the opportunity to do that. We have that recipe for real disaster, for real collapse of our civilization. I think it's all just lining up. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that probably for the first time in many a century, a major civilization has the real possibility of completely collapsing. And so if that's true, or even if that's a possibility you're willing to entertain, how are you preparing for that? Because that's way different in a kind of preparedness than pretty much anything else. I mean, that's like extreme level. Things are going to be bad and never go back to normal. Not in your lifetime, probably not in your children's lifetime. Just a complete collapse. Excuse me. So while that could happen, it may not, it could. I think as things continue to go along, it becomes much more likely. Some violets. And so we take preparing for that pretty serious also. And the best way that we can be prepared for that, in my opinion, is to figure out how to live outside the system. I've talked about cultural secession on here before, where we do our best to learn to live in a way outside of the system. The government systems, the general infrastructure that, food systems and electric grid and, all that kind of stuff. Those are all systems in place. Healthcare, clean water. That's all systems that we have built around us in this country. And all of those systems have the possibility of failing and collapsing. And if you're dependent upon those systems and they collapse, what are you going to do? How are you going to survive? Your food preps and gear and stuff like that, I mean, that's going to help for a while. It will. But it's not going to last forever. And a system collapse like I'm talking about, it's gonna be a lot longer than a year or two. And so you need to be able to live outside of the system. And that's where the whole self-sufficiency thing comes in. That's why I push tribal-like communities. I've talked about it recently a few times over on my Patreon channel. How prepared are you to, in a sense, go back in time and live like you're in the 1800s. Because while it may not exactly be that way, your choices may, in fact, be to have some level of society, but the only way to get that is to hand over all of your rights and privileges to the people in charge, or to completely live outside the system. And if you do so, most likely it's going to be like the 1800s. And I know this is a very extreme scenario. I admit that. But with all the things that are happening that have never before happened in the way they're happening, at the intensity that they're happening, and the repetition, and the fact that they're happening so close together all at once, all indicate that we could easily be experiencing a complete societal collapse. And those can be devastating. They're uncertain. You don't know how they're going to end up. And that's why we try really hard. We haven't accomplished it completely. We're not experts at it. But for many, many years, in fact, since I was a teenager, because a mentor to me when I was a teenager talked to me a lot about this, a very godly man, and kind of woke me up then. And so I have spent a lot of energy and time and money in my life learning how to be that kind of person, learning how to live like that. And trying to show others how to do that same thing. And I encourage you all to really evaluate your lives that way. Look through those lenses, not can I survive like DHS is telling me, I should have 3 months of food. So can I survive 3 months? Maybe it's 6 months. Can I survive 6 months? Thinking that way, you're just trying to put a little temporary Band-Aid over things with the hopes or the belief that things go back to normal at the end of those 3 months or those 6 months or whatever. And very few people talk about what happens if things never go back to normal. We don't find that. And like I said, there's some kind of crazy dystopian world, which is exactly what the World Economic Forum and all the globalists are trying to create. And you don't want to be part of that. And so you have to come out here and live like this. And I understand there's a lot of little things that details to that theory. But the whole idea is, how willing and how able are you to come out here and live like this? Our society, in a very, very short amount of time, has not just become extremely modernized and with loads of technology, but we have become extremely alienated from the wild. It's like there's no wildness left in us. At one point in time, humans were, and not that long ago, were a little bit more feral than they are today. And even the ones that lived in cities could figure out how to live out here if they had to. And very quickly, we lost that. And now so many Americans, they don't even walk around in their front yard. They don't even have a front yard. Grass and trees and stuff are something they see in movies and picture books. And it terrifies them, the thought of doing what I'm doing. Oh, you're going to get ticks on you. Oh, you could get bit by a snake. Oh, there's spiders and spider webs. Yeah, there are. But, you deal with it. You know how to take care of yourself and your family out like this. Do you know how to build, eat, survive, take care of injuries, all that kind of stuff? I know it may sound like a lot for people, especially for those of you that live far away from what you're seeing in the background and have never experienced it and know almost nothing about it. But really, it's not. I'm a firm believer that, I don't know. I don't know the science or if there even is science, but there's something about us as humans being out like this that a lot of it just kind of comes back if we kind of shed all those fears and misconceptions. This, being out like this, learning how to survive out like this, and I'm not talking about surviving a couple of nights, I'm talking about for a lifetime, learning how to live like this really should be part of your preparedness plan. Because while you might say, well, the odds of a complete collapse like you're talking about are pretty small, they still exist. And the more things happen, and they just seem to keep happening, I think the higher the chances of that kind of collapse are of happening. So, folks, get out here and just learn how to be part of this. Learn how to find things to eat, how to find things to heal wounds, how to, take care of injuries, and how to build things, and how to hunt, and just all of it. We were made to be part of this, whether you believe in creation or evolution. This is where we started out as a species, and we are very capable of being out in it, and very capable of surviving. And survival doesn't have to be very extreme, but you at least need to know how to take care of yourself. And that's really, for me, a big part of this, cultural succession, is learning how to live out like this, learning how to live off the land, learning how to make your own things and grow your own foods, and hunt and forage and barter and trade with others. These are all skills that we had just a century ago for many of us. Many people had these skills a century ago. And most people today have no clue what I'm talking about. So make this part of your preparedness plan. Learn how to be out in the woods. Learn how to grow your own food. Learn how to find medicines and grow medicines and build a home out of what you see around you, and to trade with other people, and how to really be part of this, because it may be dependent, our survival may be dependent upon that very thing. All right, folks, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.